Welcome and good afternoon. This is Commish Orr, and today we're going to take a look at the next four games in the Baseball Maelstrom tournament using History Maker Baseball's all time franchise greats. We are actually taking a look at the Americans League side of the losers bracket. There were four games and four eliminations there. And the next video, take a look at the four games on the National League side of the losers bracket. As we continue to narrow the field of teams that are left that are fighting their way to the championship game. So first we'll head over to New York as the number 8 seed Toronto Blue Jays are facing the number 1 seed New York Yankees in the American League. Again, teams are seeded by their franchise winning percentage. And in this one, Toronto actually came out of the gate and scored first in this game, scoring a run in each of the first 3 innings against Jack Chesbro, Yankees starter, with a couple of base hits. So RBI singles in the first 3 innings here. However, in the bottom of the third, facing Jimmy Key, by the way, the Yankees struck back. Babe Ruth had an RBI double. And a couple batters later, Mickey Mantle had a 3-run homer that put the Yankees up 4-3. They would score another run in the 5th on an Alex Rodriguez solo homer to put themselves up 5-3. But in the 7th, facing McDaniel, Toronto retook the lead as Jose Bautista hit a 3-run homer. And that put Toronto up 6-5. And so New York fans were a little worried there that would be the end of the Yankees' run. After losing their first game, surprisingly, to the Seattle Mariners, Yankees have been trying to battle their way back up through the losers bracket to still have a shot at winning this thing. But in the bottom of the 8th, Mickey Mantle and Joe DiMaggio led off with singles, and Tony Lazzeri bunted them over to second and third to get them into scoring position. And Charlie Keller came through with a clutch single that scored Mantle and DiMaggio to put New York back up on top 7-6. And then, of course, Mariano Rivera came in the 9th inning, striking out the side, but not before Carlos Delgado and Jose Bautista made things interesting. Delgado with the single, 2-out single, and Bautista walked to put the tying run into scoring position. But Josh Donaldson struck out to end the game. So New York takes this one 7-6, and they will advance in the tournament. Next up, we head to Chicago as the Kansas City Royals were taking on the Chicago White Sox. And in this one, very low-scoring game, a pitcher's duel between Kevin Appier and Wilmer Wood. And both pitchers allowing just 1 earned run. Appier actually allowed just 3 hits. He took a 2-hit shutout into the 9th inning in this one. Those 2 hits were singles by Minnie Minoso and Eddie Collins. So they would carry Kansas City would carry a 2-1 or 2-0 lead into the bottom of the 9th here. Their runs coming on an Amos Otis RBI single in the 7th, and then Mike Sweeney hit a solo homer here in the 9th that actually made the difference in this one. With 2 outs, Appier was 1 out away from a 2-hit shutout when Dick Allen homered to ruin the shutout. And Holland was brought in at that point to get the final out, which he did. So Kansas City takes this one 2-1. Chicago only with those 3 hits. Kansas City only had 6 hits themselves. So they edge out Chicago in this one and eliminate the White Sox and advance in the tournament. Next, we head over to Cleveland as the Tampa Bay Rays took on the Cleveland Indians. And Cleveland pretty much was in control of this game early on. Gaylord Perry on the mound for Cleveland against Alex Cobb for Tampa Bay. Cleveland scored in the first, third, and fourth innings with some RBI base hits here. And Tampa Bay scored Aubrey Huff, and there were a couple of solo homers there that Tampa Bay had to keep the game close. And so Cleveland took a 3-2 lead into the eighth inning when Michael Jackson actually came in relief for Cleveland and promptly let up the lead that they had. He walked Jason Bartlett there to lead things off. Bartlett stole second. And then Jim Thome bobbled the ball here to put runners on the corners. And that's when Ben Zobrist hit a sac fly to tie the game at 3 there in the top of the eighth. In the bottom of the eighth, still facing J.P. Howell, Cleveland actually was able to break through a little bit here. Howell had pitched a 1-2-3 seventh inning, but allowed a single to lead off the ninth to Manny Ramirez and then walked Albert Bell. Rafael Soriano came in to try to stop any scoring, but was not successful as he did get, Lou Boudreau here hit a single to load the bases, I believe. And then we had an RBI single after that, and a couple batters later, Tris Speaker drove in 2 more runs with another single. Speaker with 3 RBI here in this one, 3 for 5. And those 3 runs ended up being the difference here as Cleveland takes this one 6-3. Jose Mesa gets a save here by pitching a scoreless ninth, and that eliminates Tampa Bay from the tournament. Finally, we'll head over to Houston as the Baltimore Orioles were taking on the Houston Astros. Once again, neither starting pitcher was very sharp. We had the battle of the Mikes in this case. Mike Cuellar on the mound for Baltimore facing off against Mike Scott for Houston. And things looked rough when Roberto Alomar led off the game with a home run here against Mike Scott. He allowed another solo shot to Frank Robinson in the third. And so Baltimore scored in each of the first 3 innings here. But Houston kept pace with them. Rusty Staub had an RBI single here in the second. And then Lance Berkman had an RBI double, followed by Richard Hidalgo's RBI single here in the third to keep things tied at 3. And Cuellar just couldn't really stop Houston from getting on base and scoring. He allowed 10 hits in his 5 innings of work. 4 earned runs through the 5th here as Berkman had another RBI base hit here in the 5th. And then leading off the 6th, he would hit Dennis Menke and then allow a single to Alan Ashby here before he was pulled. Stu Miller came in to try to stop any damage here, but after Craig Biggio grounded out, Cesar Cedeno hit an RBI double here. So Houston scored a couple more runs to go up 6-3 at that point. Not to be counted out, Mike Scott still pitching in the 7th here for Houston. Allowed a leadoff double to Melvin Mora and a single to Cal Ripken Jr. He did get Roberto Alomar to fly out, but then hit Ken Singleton to load the bases here. And that brought in Larry Anderson. Yeah, Larry Anderson got brought in. But Jim Gentile had a base hit here to get some runs on the board for Baltimore in the 7th. After that base hit, though, things kind of calmed down, and the Houston relief, the Houston bullpen actually closed things down pretty much the rest of the way. They did allow a couple of walks here and in the 8th and 9th, but other than that, they quieted the Orioles' bats. So Octavio Dotel and Billy Wagner kind of closed things out here in the ninth. Meanwhile, Hidalgo hit a solo shot here in the seventh for another RBI. And when the dust settled, Houston took this one 7-5, and they advance in the tournament. So let's take a look at that tournament bracket on the American League side here. You can see of those 4 games, there was only one upset, and that was the Royals, number 13 seed Royals, taking out the number 5 seed Chicago White Sox. The Royals now get the pleasure of having to face the Yankees in the next game, as Houston will face off against Cleveland in the American League. So remember, back in the winner's bracket, we will have Seattle facing off against the Angels here in the winner's bracket. So just 6 teams left in the, actually 8, because we have Detroit and Oakland here. So 8 teams left in the American League, fighting it out here. It'll be very interesting to see how that shapes up. My next video will take a look at the 4 losers bracket games in the National League. A couple of those I've already played, so you can kind of get a preview of that if you head over to baseballmaelstrom.com. If you head over to baseballmaelstrom.com, you can follow the action. You can see the write-ups on the games. You can see the schedule. You can click and see all of the stats using ball score and ball stat. To do that, you can see the score sheets and the box scores for every game played, and keep up on the tournament. If you want to see the tournament bracket, you can just click here on this link, and that will take you to the tournament bracket so you can see kind of the progress so far. We are getting down to it here, so a couple more days and I'll have, as I said, the National League side of the losers bracket, those 4 games, and then we will only have 16 teams left. We'll have 16 teams eliminated, 16 teams left. But we're more than halfway through here, because at least in the losers bracket, teams that lose 1 game down there will be eliminated. So we are quickly getting to the end. I'd imagine it'll be sometime in January where things will wrap up, maybe early January. And then I will be starting a couple of new projects, actually. I'm going to try a couple of different systems. I still have in the works the Payoff Pitch Season 2 of my Payoff Pitch League. That league using teams of Hall of Famers and 1 team in the National League and 1 team in the American League of players that are not in the Hall of Fame, retired players that are not in the Hall of Fame. So that'll be interesting. Keep an eye out for that one. I'm actually waiting until the Hall of Fame announcements before I get that league going again. That way I can adjust teams, and anybody that's voted into the Hall will be removed from the non-Hall of Fame teams in the American and National League, for example, and be eligible to join one of the Hall of Fame teams at that time. So kind of waiting for that to shape out, and I think that's in January where the Hall of Fame is announced. So it'll be sometime after that I start getting that league together. And I'll probably have a couple of projects going on at the same time. I do have another project in the works, 2 different games actually. So stay tuned to hear more about those. And yeah, I'm still having fun with this one as we reach or get closer to the end of the tournament. So keep watching for that. If you have any comments or questions, leave those down below. Thank you so much for watching. Until next time, have a great evening.